Joining me is the political panel on a Wednesday, Michael Costa, former New South Wales Labor Treasurer, and Cameron Milner, former Chief of Staff to Labor leader Bill Shorten, now Director of GXO Strategies. Crisis management, Labor could call on him now, I think. But Michael, the government lets in even Hamas supporters with no interview, without full checks, visas, tourist visas issued in maybe an hour in some cases, and the government's response is, if you criticise that, you're racist. Have I got it right?
I think the government's in absolute turmoil over this, and as I said last week, they are now in a position where they've got to balance whatever political concerns they have about those seats that the Prime Minister just mentioned against where the rest of the country is. And I can tell you the rest of the country isn't with the Prime Minister on this issue. National security is one of the number one functions of the federal government. And this is what this issue is about. The fact that they haven't been transparent, the fact that they can't explain the simple things, why people were granted visas or why people were rejected visas and why they're not transparent about this, is a horrific position in relation to their responsibilities with national security. I've got to say that, if it wasn't for Teals, the way they're performing, this government could lose. And I think it's only the Teals that are going to save them, because they've really lost Middle Australia and all of Australia, including some of their working class base.
Do you agree there, Cameron, that the government looks in disarray? I mean, it seems to be coasting on the supposition that, this is not about cost of living, so here's the opposition more worried about the Middle East than Middle Australia. Do you think it's called it right?
Well, no, I don't. And I think that's all of the government's own distraction and self-harm from the government. Albo chose to give the Gazans the visas. The rest of the world hasn't. The rest of the Five Eyes countries haven't done this. It's an Albanese visa. An Albo visa for Gazans, without the security tests, without the proper checks and balances. And Albo's made this the issue. We should be talking about cost of living. Instead, we're talking about his failure on national security. And can I say, isn't he, when he's backed into a corner, just such an abusive and a denigrator? He attacks people so nastily. And that's his real character coming through, Andrew. And I think Australians are going to ask the question, is this really the Prime Minister they want on national security? Because his track record, especially with these Gazans, I mean, basically handing out tourist visas to potential terrorists, holidays to Hamas supporters. I mean, that's his standard.
Look, Cameron there, Michael, said it goes to Albanese's character. Whatever, it certainly goes to his habit of doing things disastrously, because I am struck by the similarity between the way Albanese handled the voice debate and how he's handling this visa debacle. Don't answer direct questions. Don't give the facts. Try to wait it out. Go emotional. Will it work?
Oh, it absolutely won't work, particularly on this issue. National security is a prime concern for everybody. The problem with the Prime Minister is he's caught up in an ideological framework that sees victimhood as being important. I mean, all that stuff today about, punching down is absolute nonsense. People aren't punching down. They're asking simple questions about national security, and they want answers, and he's not prepared to give those answers because at his heart, he's conflicted. He's conflicted that, if it wasn't the Prime Minister, he'd probably be out there supporting the introduction of these visas like he did in his left-wing past. The same with the issue of Israel. We know that he's been sort of walking a tightrope, trying to be responsible, but on the other hand, having some sort of residual sympathy for some of the issues and positions that he had in the past. So I think he is conflicted, and it's hurting the government.
Look, I actually think Labor should realise it's teetering on a tightrope here, because 5 Australians have already been killed in terrorism events caused by refugees, Muslim refugees we have led into the country in the past. So it's making Labor a real hostage to fortune here. The Albanese government today, Cameron, introduced plan new laws to stamp out bad behaviour in Parliament. An independent Parliamentary Standards Commission set that up, and this would then be able to fine MPs at least $11,000, even suspend them from Parliament, which seems highly undemocratic. Is this a good idea?
Well, there's got to be standards, but can I say that Zali Steggall, who was earlier on your program, what a hypocrite, Andrew, what a hypocrite. I mean, this Teal wanting to proselytise to us about standards, and she breaks them herself, Andrew. I mean, look, hypocrisy is on show, and let's hope the voters and the electorate that she represents judge her accordingly.